How could we set up the right infrastructure, using the word again, to help these visionary entrepreneurs?
The first thing is we have to understand how dynamic the world is. When I left college, the forecast would be I would have 3 employers before I retired. The average American young person leaving college now will have 5 to 6 employers before they're 30. Now, my view about that is that's fantastic because it's a whole brand new informal education system where they'll work in startups, they'll work in big companies, they'll work in several industries, and by the time they get to be 30 or 35, they will be probably much more inclined to be synthetic because their breadth of experience will be so wide. In the context of a business park, for example, it would be wise to basically think about exactly that. What are the experiences of the people who work in that park? And again, as you point out, from an institutional perspective, people are ready to watch it happen at much later ages.
Within our government structure, under the chief secretary, kind of the managing director of the city, there's an efficiency unit. Do you think that this is still relevant for a city in the 21st century? Because Hong Kong is known for efficiency already.
We have to create the conditions for our cities to embrace new ideas and test them and implement them in the street, in our hospitals, in our schools and wherever else, in our businesses. And, you know, it's about how you frame the conditions and create that in Hong Kong, as well as having the right level of efficiency.
Would you say innovation is more important than management in order to drive better efficiency in the future?
Sometimes there's not stable enough platform to innovate from, and you need good management. And I've worked a lot with engineering firms. You know, Toyota is one of the benchmarks of one type of innovation. It has extremely good process-oriented management, which means that everybody knows what's going on, and you can then start setting your sights on doing something new. It's horses for courses. That's one type of innovation. I wouldn't want to see Hong Kong disrupt itself by removing management from your infrastructure businesses. You don't need to do that, but you do need to have enlightened management that seek out areas for demonstration projects, that engage with universities, with the science park, with others, to try and learn and make things happen.
Our national president, President Xi, just was in Australia. Perhaps there are lots closer partnership we can do together. Would you choose Shanghai to land or Hong Kong?
That's a tough question. What I would say, though, is that, I think that the challenge for Hong Kong is to understand what's its unique or defining characteristics that makes it different from Shanghai. It doesn't necessarily need to compete with Shanghai. It can do, can it do something else? And maybe ask the 2 questions that I said that we asked ourselves: what does Hong Kong need to be great at, and what does Hong Kong have the capacity to be great at? You're also benefiting from an extremely high density population as well. And so with digital technologies, you have the capacity to implement some enormous changes that can really improve productivity. The 10 largest mega regions, which account for less than 10% of the world's population, contribute 30-40% to the world's GDP, and you guys are right in the middle of that. Understanding how you can use digital technologies to drive your productivity in the sectors that you can be the best at and that you need to be the best at is probably where your solution lies.
It's not about Shanghai competing with Hong Kong. It's about what Hong Kong can do and China cannot do or have not been able to do yet, and vice versa. And on a complementary basis, working together, including these various countries with us, we can create things that were impossible in the past.